Hello everyone, welcome to Introduction to Linguistics subject. And this time we have come to the discussions of language and computer, or it is a branch of linguistics which is called as computational linguistics. So what is computational linguistics? Computational linguistics, referring to Johnson and Johnson in 1999, can be seen as a branch of applied linguistics dealing with computer processing of human language. So, computational linguistics seeks to develop the computational machinery needed for an agent to exhibit various forms of linguistic behavior. It integrates ideas from linguistics and computer science. Therefore, the activities in computational linguistics may include those activities like the analysis of language data so as to establish the order in which learners acquire various grammatical rules or the frequency of occurrence of some particular item, which is also called as programmed instruction. Another activity can be in the form of electronic production of artificial speech or speech synthesis and the automatic recognitions of human speech. And then another activities in computational linguistics may be in the form of research on automatic translation between natural languages, and another activities in computational linguistics can be in the form of text processing and communication between people and computers. So once again, the main activities in computational linguistics is about the involvement of human language and computer as the machine. So in this introduction to linguistics, especially the discussions about computational linguistics, the points of discussion involve call or computer-assisted language learning, and then machine translation, corpus linguistic, and the last one is computer-mediated communication. So let's see one by one. The first one is about computer-assisted language learning, or CALL, call. So before we come to call, there is the first iterations of computer assisted instruction, which is called as CAI. So computer assisted instruction, or CAI, refers to the use of a computer in a teaching program, according to Richard et al. In 1998. So again, this is the very first generations of the involvement of computer in language teaching. So DCAI includes a teaching program which is presented by a computer in a sequence. So the students make their responses on the computer, and the computer indicates whether the responses are correct or incorrect. The use of computers to monitor students' progress so as to direct students into appropriate lessons, appropriate material, and etc. This is also called computer managed instruction. So CAI aims at seeing educational problems on the part of the teacher. So in other words, CAI, or the very first generations of the involvement of computer in in teaching program, is intended to help teacher to teach their students. So it doesn't matter that the teaching is it is not only about teaching language, but it can be teaching any subjects for the teacher to help the students get the material, do the question and answer session using the help of computer. So that's the basic idea of CAI, or computer assisted instruction. So after the first generations of computer assisted instruction, the next generation is called as computer assisted learning, or CAL. So CAL emphasizes the use of a computer in both teaching and learning in order to help the learners to achieve educational objectives through their own reasoning and practice. Or another word is about the reflections of autonomous learning. The first kind of CAL program reflects principles similar to program instruction. The computer leads the students through learning tasks step by step, asking questions to check their comprehension. And then depending on the student's response, the computer gives the students further practice or progress to new material. So it is, what's it? A more advanced level of CAI. In CAI, the computer is only used to help the teaching activities, but in CAL, the computer assisted learning, it is not only from the point of view of the teacher, the use of computer, but the use of computer is also intended to help students in learning. So more activities is being added here in the use of computer, not only teaching but also learning. And then next one is the one which is called as CALL, Computer Assisted Language Learning. So from the name, we know the difference between CALL and CAI and CAL. In CAI and CAL, both of the program, the use of computer in CAR and CAL deal with teaching and learning in general. But in computer assisted language learning, the use of computer is dealt or is aimed with the language teaching and learning in particular, especially refers to the use of computer in the teaching or learning of a second or foreign language. CALL itself, or this computer assisted language learning, has gone through several development stages. The first traditional CALL program presented a stimulus to which the learner had to provide a response. So it is a very traditional one, in which again the learner had to provide a response given by the computer. And then the next development stage is called as explorative CALL, in which it favored a learner-centered. It is explorative in approach rather than a teacher-centered, and normally it is used for drill-based approach to call. And then the third development level of CALL is called as multimedia call, which combines the sound, the photographic quality of still images and video recordings in imaginative presentations to earlier program of call. So this kind of call is a more advanced level of using computer, because it has combined not only the computer as the machine, but also combined the sound, the photographic quality, still images, video recordings in the teaching and learning of language. And then the next development of call is called as web-based call. From the name, we can infer that it integrates the World Wide Web activities to the established of call programs. So it is not only computer as machine, which is used in the teaching and learning of language, but the use of World Wide Web is also added in the teaching and learning program. Okay, so those are what we have discussed so far up to this point is about the integrations of computer into the language learning activities. Now, the second point of discussion in this computational linguistics is called as machine translation. So what is the machine translation? Machine translation refers to the use of machine, in this case is computer, to translate text from one natural language to another. It can be from English to Indonesian or Indonesian to English, or uh, from any languages to other languages. So there are several types of machine translation. The first one is called as SMT, or statistical machine translation. The second one is called as RBMT, or rule-based machine translation. And then the next one is hybrid machine translation. And the next one is neural machine translation. So let's see one by one in brief. The first type of machine translation is called as statistical machine translation. So SMT works by referring to statistical models that are based on the analysis of large volumes of bilingual text. It aims to determine the correspondence between a word from the source language and a word from the target language. A good example of SMT is Google Translate. Now, SMT is great for basic translation, but its greatest drawback is that it does not factor in context, which means translation can often be erroneous. In other words, don't expect high quality translation. Therefore, it is not suggested for you as students of English education to use Google Translation as the only source of doing translation. Well, as an aid, as a support, or as a, what's that like the first thing, the first stage or level to do translation, you may consult Google Translation, but don't rely solely only on the result of Google Translation, because once again, as it is stated in this slide, that Google Translation normally doesn't include the context in the translation result, so the translation may sound rigid. Okay. Next, the second type of machine translation is called as RBMT translation, or rule-based machine translation. So this kind of machine translation works on the basis of grammatical rules. So it conducts a grammatical analysis of the source language and the target language to generate the translated sentence. However, RBMT requires extensive proofreading, and its heavy dependence on lexicon means that efficiency is achieved after a long period of time. The next type of machine translation is called as hybrid machine translation. So hybrid means a combination or a blend. In this case, HMT is a blend of RBMT and SMT. So it leverages translation memory, making it far more effective in terms of quality. However, even HMT has its share of drawbacks, the greatest of which is the need for extensive editing. Human translator will be required. So again, do not solely depend on the result of machine translation if you want to have a good and effective translation. Human translation is still needed. And the next type of machine translation is called as neural machine translation, or NMT. It is a type of machine translation that depends on neural network model based on human brain to develop statistical models for the purpose of translation. The primary benefit of NMT is that it provides a single system that can be trained to decipher the source and target text. As a result, it does not depend on specialized systems that are common to other machine translation systems, especially the SMT one. So these types of machine translation are not that familiar in our surroundings. The most familiar one, I think, is the first one, the SMT, the Statistical Machine Translation, or the Google Translation. Other machine translation that has been discussed so far normally can be found in those working with professional translation, not for students doing translation for their homework. All right. So the third point of discussion in computational linguistics is called as corpus linguistic. So what is corpus linguistic? So corpus linguistic approaches the study of language in the use of corpora. So the word corpora refers to a collections, or it is a large principal collection of naturally occurring examples of language stored electronically in computer. So in other words, the word corpus refers to a big data in terms of language, of course, in the form of language, spoken or written, which is stored electronically in computer. So corpus linguistics serve to answer two fundamental research questions. The first one is what particular patterns are associated with lexical or grammatical features, And the second one is how do these patterns differ within varieties and register. The scholars or the big names in corpus linguistic are those like Leach, Biber, Johansson, Francis, Hanston, Conrad, McCarthy, and Sinclair. Those names, those scholars used or conducted their studies by using a large number of corpora or using the stored language data in computer. Okay, so what about the target features of conducting corpus linguistic? So in conducting corpus linguistic, normally the domain of the research or the field of the study can be in the form of phraseology, or it deals with the collocation, the lexical bundles, or preferred sequences in the corpora, or it can be about studying or investigating the lexicogrammar in the corpora. It is also about the register or the functional language varieties in the corpora. It can also be about the English for specific purposes or nuances of language and syllabus design. Talking about corpus linguistic, once again, when it deals with the language research targeting or using or employing the data, the corpora or the data stored in computer. So there must be tools which are needed to do the research. The tools involved in doing corpus linguistic normally are the corpora itself, the first one, which is about generalized, specialized learner, or it is about a certain data dealing with pedagogic domain. And then if there is no corpora, if there is no stored data in a machine, so the researcher can create the corpora itself. So if you can see in the slide the name Mikase, Mikase is one of the name of the corpus which is stored in Michigan University. So Mikase stands for Michigan Corpus of Academic Spoken English. If you have access to Mikase, it means that you have access to a large data, a large academic spoken English stored in the Michigan University corpora. If you have access, once again, to Mikase, it means that you can conduct any studies using or employing Mikase as the object of the study. You can say, for example, study about the collocation in the Mikase. You can study about the politeness in the Mikase, or anything, any language phenomena that you want to investigate in the Mikase. That's the example of corpora and how to conduct corpus linguistic using a certain corpora. Okay, as I told you earlier, if you don't have or there isn't any corpora provided, as a researcher using corpus linguistic approach, you can also create the corpora. So when you create a corpora, it means that you have to collect a large number of data, and then you have to store the data in the computer system. So if you had done that, it means that you have had your own corpora, and not the what's that? Not Another thing about the tools in doing corpus linguistic is about the concording program. So it is a program, it is like a software to help you doing the analysis. One of the famous, well-known program in doing corpus linguistic is called as concording program. There are several names for the concording program like uh, NCOG software. Like another one is developed by SFL based corpus linguistic by Mike Donovan. You can search about the name for that concording program. So the last discussion of computational linguistics is about computer mediated communications, or CMC. So CMC is distinguished by its focus on language and language use in computer network environments, and by its use of methods of discourse analysis to address that focus. So it is different from text-based CMC, in which in text-based CMC, it takes a variety of forms, for example, email, discussion group, real-time chat, virtual reality role-playing games, whose linguistic properties vary depending on the kind of messaging system used and the social and cultural context embedding particular instances of use. So again, text-based CMC is a little bit different from computer-mediated communication, in which in text-based CMC, the communication along with the help or the assistance of computer, there is also text provided, or text being displayed or being shown in the communication using computer. Another CMC, or computer mediated communication, is human to human communication via computer networks or interactive networking. So this kind of CMC is the one which is which can be found in the chat rooms, like using emoticons, smileys, and GIF or GIF. So those kind of language, or those kind of codes, emoticons, smiley, and GIF, are actually the way to communicate between human and human, but using computer networks, or in this case using the help of internet, not only computer. So those are all the things that be the focus of computational linguistics. Once again, in summary, when we talk about computational linguistics, actually we talk about linguistic and the computer science. So it is the combinations of how language as a means of communications, as a system of language coding, is being transferred or being combined with the help of computer science for the ease of language teaching and learning, for the ease of communication, as well as for the ease of rendering meaning from one language to another language, like in machine translation. From this discussion, once again, we know that studying linguistics is very comprehensive, because when we, especially when we relate linguistic to other field of study. Again, in computational linguistics, it means that we study language with in relationship to computer science. Okay, that's all the discussion about the introduction to computational linguistics.